everyone, Tsars here, and I might getting questions like, where the hell were you these weeks? To which I'll answer, I was confused what I do with the content, and I was changing my editing program. Now instead of OpenShot is DaVinci Resolve. Yes, the one and only Resolve version, due to myself being broke or just simply refusing to pay greedy companies. Now enjoy this new, bit weird experience of Rome in Crusader Kings 3, especially with the new mod that I looked up called Sons of Lightning, and it's about a what if scenario about Carthage winning against Rome and basically copying most of the IRL stuff of Rome to Carthage into this timeline. Also, before the story begins, I want to thank the modders for making this unique gem of historically authentic and fantasy-ish mods that are in the workshop and etc. platforms. Truly a unique third genre for massive overhaul mods that isn't pretty much popular. I mean, like two, three mods, and that's rarely small comparing to these, especially with this highly detailed, albeit in beta quality. Anyway, I'm just yapping too much. Rome. Rome, as we know nowadays, is one of the key cities in Italy, and it's a capital. It was a city that had a legendary rich story before Christ was born, since the fall of Troy, that endured pain and still plays a crucial role even if the old days of Augustus, Romulus, and Aurelian are gone. What if Rome was never an empire? Or if you rephrase it as, what if Rome got sacked even before the Goths and etc., and died even in its earlier days? Because that's the story of how a dying city that was sacked by a superpower got itself to be an empire even after like 9 to 8 centuries of collapse and misery. This is the story of Rome in Crusader Kings mod The Sons of Lightning. Against Carthage since the First, Second, and the Third Punic Wars, Rome lost itself, its status as a hegemon of the Mediterranean, and overall died. The Roman culture declined, and instead of being the civilized people they were, they turned to be as paid-ass mercenaries willing to do anything for gold. However, most of those mercenaries served Eastern kings and etc. realms, especially those who practiced the Mithraic faith. For those who don't know, by the way, what the hell is the Mithraic faith? More of a cult than a full religion, well, speaking in real life, but in this mod it turned out to be a full organized religion, just like Christianity, aka more than a cult. It centers around the Iranian god of war named Mithras, who got his own unique cult, and in this timeline, those same mercenary Roman captains eventually got used to this faith, and when the majority of the Mithraic faith got reduced to the rise of both Islam and Christianity, alongside with other faiths, its believers, the early mentioned captains, went back west to Italy itself, especially to Rome, or nearby it, the region of Latium. They spread it out, and it kind of worked, except for the Tarquinii, since the Christians took it over. Yet there was one place named Ostia, keep that name in mind, that is near Rome, and its local people thought, why don't we make it more Romanized and Easternized? Thus the Mithrae Militara, or the military Mithra, or the Romanized version of the Mithraic religion was born, a sidekick from the original Mithraic religion that's more Roman and more reliant on personal ambitions of people than originally it was, and it's from Ostia, early mentioned place, that our main character, Apio, don't ask why the oos ending isn't presented with the o, like it's sort of authentic Italian endings. Anyway, of House Hostilio, and this isn't just a story, it's a story of a dynasty that got Rome higher than its knees with the blessing of Mithraeus and using brains for once.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Certain military captain who became a priest that taught the young Apio things about religion and military, and the young man eventually gathered up the local peasants and revolted against his liege lord and took over Ostia when he was just only 18 or 19 years old, ruling as a vassal of Latium. After organizing his court, marrying, he went to war against Sicina to gain new lands for himself. However, things took a different turn when the neighboring Carthaginian Sicilians attacked Sicina. Instead of defending it, Appius, liege lord of the Cornelio family, gave up the land like nothing, without even a battle. Little did the guy know that Appio would not take it kindly and lightly, but Appio was preparing his claim to the whole Duchy of Latium to begin his first steps of becoming the ruler of Rome. Another thing that gave a excuse for Appio to gain more ambition, it was due to the original Mithraic believers trying to reconvert the more Romanized believers in Ostia back to the old ones, which kind of pissed off Appio at it. The only thing left before committing this action, time and gathering up new forces by alliances, early mentioned with the barbarian nations, after he betrothed his children, enhanced the economy a bit in Ostia, and overall, after praying to Mithra, he was eventually ready for it. After rebelling against the now king of Rome, Appio not only became the king of Roma, but also became the Matrae Militaris high priest or Pontifex Maximus. However, ambition of Appio didn't just end on the kingdom of Rome. He went further to unite the whole of Italy. How, you may ask? Allies, upgrading the army, hiring new generals, captains alike, converting Italy to the truer faith of the Romanized Mithraism, and enhancing the economy in the cities and overall stabilizing hospices and other stuff alike. However, war alone can't unite people. Through diplomacy, some Etruscan Christian lords were vassalized under the protection of the Etruscan branch of Christianity, named Marianism, which is condemned as heresy in Carthage and Alexandria alike, but Appio cared less, since Italy in his later age and after him will mostly be Mithraic than Christian, but that's later. Then the conquest of North Italy followed alongside with the war in Sicily, which ended the early mentioned Carthaginian Sicilians who once conquered Sicina. Even with parts of Cisalpine Gaul and Venetia conquered and the formation of this so-called United Roman Italy, wasn't enough. Even in his older age, Appio wanted to do one final thing in his life before his descendants could do it, achieving utter greatness that would bless the name of Roman of House Hostilio, conquering Carthage, getting revenge over the once proud, now diminished hegemon of the Mediterranean Sea. Thus, wars against some minor independent rulers followed, and the nail of the coffin for the Carthaginian people was the defeat of the Carthaginian Pope. the failed First Carthaginian Crusade over Carthage itself, after which Rome took it and sacked it. But it also failed due to the plague that plagued around near Carthage and all of northern Africa, that not only halted the Crusaders, but also killed Rome's first emperor. His only son and heir, also named as Appio, or which will be referred as Appio II, now rules as the Imperator Romanorum or Imperator Italianorum. But what he will bring to Rome, that's another time we will talk about. For now, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Subscribe to the channel and see you guys next time.